We will call to order this meeting in the Skagit PUD Board of Commissioners. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, so I would be looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 5.
I motion to approve consent agenda items 1 through 5.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, motion carries. We will now enjoy some audience comments. If there's anyone online, please use the raise your hand function. And if you're in the audience and you'd like to make a comment, please come up to the podium. Yes. Oh, no, yeah, we can do it. There's nobody online though. Yeah, to the podium there, so everybody can hear you. Just state your name and where you're from.
My name is Robbie Robertson. From 2001 through 2018, I was commissioner of the PD. And I just want to say, nice getting the building done, although I noticed it didn't come in on time. And so as I was always wanting to ask, if it didn't come on time, then it means that it didn't come in on budget. So I'm wondering if I might be able to get a kind of a preliminary audit, if you will, showing me what my cost overruns were on the building. And also with the pipeline extension, I understand the dilemmas that we had, and they weren't all traceable just to the PUD, but you had pipes sitting on the ground for almost a year. And I'd also like to know what the cost overruns on that were. That was a mighty expensive project, something that I know Commissioner Atterbury and I were very instrumental in making sure that we had the right ideas on the easements that were needed and what all the yada yadas. And we took care of the Colshan pipeline extension, which was the backbone for the rest of that pipeline. So I'd like to get those if I could. But the biggest reason that I'm here today, excuse me, believe it or not, even though I'm in retirement, we still talk about the PUD. And I still go down to Olympia. And I still communicate with the Washington Public Utility District Association since I was president in 2010 and went through all the various chairs. So I still have a vested interest. What gets me more is the conversations that I have with the folks that I live around. And I did an informal survey, if you will. And of the 20 people that I talked to, 19 of them are righteously upset over the ever increasing water bill that they get every stinking year. And the one person that didn't says they were just glad that their rate was lower than what it was down in Phoenix. So that's what I need to ask is about rates. Are you guys just arbitrarily just going with 5% or 6% or whatever it is? Or do you actually work against a particular plan that us citizens can see and say, okay, I see where the 5% or 6% is being delegated to, or is it all going to cost overruns? I think those are legitimate concerns that the community has. I think when my last year at the PUD, it was told to me that it's all we ever did was raise rates. But we raised rates because we had projects. And I'll be honest with you, every project that you folks have completed in the last 6 years were projects that were begun by Commissioner Atterbury or myself. And in closing, just one last thing. The year before I left, we closed on the 100-acre purchase of the Cultus Mountain Watershed property reserves. 100 acres that was designed to ensure the safety and the integrity of the Cultus Mountain Watershed, which, as you know, we have had streams and still do, I hope, that fed into Judy Reservoir. Recognizing that the bulk of the water comes out of the river, we still own those streams, or the rights to those streams, and we better be doing whatever we can to protect it, because you guys are going to run out of water sooner than what you think you are. You may not think that's true, but I imagine if you sat down and had a really good discussion with your manager or with your citizen constituents, you'd find out that that's really a true thing. And so you're just not going to be able to go dig a hole in the ground. And you're not going to be able to put enough steel tanks in the ground to handle all that growth that's going. And all you got to do is look one way and you're going to see where all that growth is going, and that's north. So with that, I'm just hoping that you can take a little bit of that to heart, and maybe over the next 6 years, you don't raise our rates as much. And by the way, I brought the receipts. We've had a doubling in the cost of our water in just the last 4 years. There's something wrong with that because my usage is the same. Okay, so I would appreciate if I can get those audits from your manager or from you folks, doesn't matter. But I'd really like to see the overrides. And thank you for the time. And wonderful building, but as Commissioner Atterbury already asked is, why did you put us next to I can't say that in polite language, but next to the sewer, the sewer plant over here out in the hallway? That's, I mean, if that's what the consideration of the past commissioners are, then that's a tough one. And with that, I'll sit down and let someone else take over. Thank you.
Good evening, commissioners and Mr. Manager. Jones Atterbury, a commissioner for 18 years, serving the 3rd District in Burlington, where I lived, and Cedar Woolley. I now live in Anacortes and happily there too. So but I do have an acre right in the heart of Cedar Woolley. And the water lines that service that are probably 4-inch or less, and they run down Ball Street from Highway 20 down to, not Peter Anderson, John Liner Road. And so, and there's probably enough homes right in the middle where our acreage, there's probably like 3.5 to 4 acres right in the middle that has no water. And the pipelines that come through there are so small, and sewer lines too, that there's no way to infill those areas with the cost of what it is now for water, even for especially medium to low income, somewhere in the $400,000 price range for a house. Heaven's sakes, $550,000 and $650,000, what's now being built in Cedar Woolley. So I know there are some grants. I know there's funds out there. I know that the PUD can participate in different funding operations with that. And so I'd really like in the next couple of weeks to have an opportunity, George, to come in and meet with you and the engineers and see what sort of plan that can be put together. Either that or an LUD, something like that could be put in there so it could be paid over time while we get those lots and pay them off as we sell a lot or build a house or do something, instead of spending $400,000 or $500,000 that you have to, which is what it's going to cost. I bet you somewhere to that $350,000 to $400,000. What is the cost of a water line foot now? Yeah. I mean, it's just right down to, and who knows what the city will require, because Ball Street is a narrow little street and no sidewalks anywhere. So that's kind of why I'm here, wanting to set something up like that. Beautiful building. George and the commissioners, I also want to thank you for working with the ag community and sharing water rights when you need to, bringing them down to the old, of course, the old intake here off the river is kind of where what they say that's at, and being able to allow the ag community to irrigate when they need to. I see them all the time. I still work. I'm still in the real estate business, so I drive around. I probably see more PUD workers than probably 95% of anybody else in this county, because I know what you look like. So, and I see a lot of listings in Anacortes that still mention PUD out in the Gibraltar. Did that ever get transferred over to the city? It did. So people are just not informed on what they're putting on the listings. Okay, thank you very much. Great seeing you all.
Thanks, Jones.
Thank you.
All right, so we will now transition to general manager's report. George.
All right. Thank you, commissioners. Good afternoon, everyone. We are making our preparations for the budget hearing on October 14th and the workshops that will follow. So those are still being worked on. Also, just a reminder, the water workshop is starting tomorrow up in Leavenworth. And as I learned today, the air quality in Leavenworth is very bad today. It's supposed to get better the next couple of days, but the AQI is still going to be in the high level. So just be aware, take that into account. If you have health issues, just, be safe. But it is going on. Lena, I think, pushed out an agenda today or yesterday. So that's got more details on the sessions and the times and the presenters and all of that. So that is on tap, and you'll see a lot of staff from Skagit PUD doing presentations. So hope to see you there. Jones mentioned this, but the water rights transfers to the irrigators, we did it again this year, a seasonal transfer. They have let us know that they are done using water for the season. So that has now concluded, and we are back to using our pump station. So we have 3 pumps running at the SRD. The reservoir has gotten lower, and so those 3 pumps will hopefully let us recover here fairly soon. We have completed year-end performance evaluations for non-represented staff. So we're now working on goals for all those staffs for the next review period. So that's going well. And then Mike, I asked Mike to bring this just because we've had discussions about pipeline replacement recently and likelihood of failure models that we have. And so we talk about pipeline replacements because of age, material, capacity, those kinds of issues. And if we have leaks, so breaks on pipe. Mike brought this up during one of our meetings that it's not always the pipe that's the issue. We've had some recent issues in certain areas where there's corrosion taking place and dissimilar metals with saddles on plastic pipe. And so you get the dissimilar metals. So he brought, right? Is that the saddle, Mike? So he brought an example of that. If you care to,
Show and tell.
yeah, show and tell, you can pass it down. He's got gloves too.
Yeah, I was walking around, but this is what one of the saddles looks like when it's originally installed. Stainless bands, cast iron face, usually a bronze valve. So you have dissimilar metals, and I think, this is my theory, that when the nuts get tightened, it marks up this paint coating on the cast iron. But the cast iron is the least normal of everything, so it's trying to protect the stainless. Mostly in clay ground, we found that the leak that happened last weekend, this one, where basically this ear rots off, where the bolts down. So you have bronze, cast iron, then stainless. So the cast iron gives up everything trying to protect the bronze and the stainless. Pipeline's fine. It was put in 1979 by Jones Atterbury along with these parts. So what happens in that clay soil, both of them, one was on first, that's off on the venture, and the other was on patchy. So it's both of these instances were in clay ground where it's less resistant soil, so the chlorides and stuff in the soil keep that moisture, and that moisture is conductivity between these metals and makes it really easy to corrode back and forth. And you can also see after about 40 years that this surface almost grows shut.
Mm-hmm.
Just from the corrosion though. The surface itself grows closed. But what we have found happening lately is a lot of these, well, coincidentally, both these pipelines are 6-inch PVC, 3 miles apart, both put in 1979. So this parts era was probably from the same era of putting these in similar saddles in. So this is something starting to crop up years later.
Good to know.
Yeah. We're starting to experience a bit more of these lately.
And so when we get the leaks, using CityWorks, we open the work order and we try and put as much information in there as possible. And we're tracking to that level of detail, saying, what was the issue to respond to? Is it a corrosion issue? Is it a saddle issue? Is it a service line? So we're tracking all the specific information instead of just blanketly saying there's a leak, like we're drilling into that. And so we have that information now, which is helpful because then in cases like that, the pipe itself is fine. It's the saddles and even the service line. So there's other decisions we can make as far as what kind of work we want to do in that area. So more information is always better. And to have that and have that input into CityWorks is just, it's going to help us make decisions in the future, which is good.
Can that also help with kind of preemptive replacement of saddles? If you know that in one, soil type, you're starting to see failure between, 45 and 50 years. If we can preemptively, I mean, it costs a lot for people to be on overtime and going and responding to massive leaks and being able to hopefully use our tools to be able to predict that and build it into our budget and our workflow. would be-
Right. And I think you'll see, again, like compared to sandy or rocky ground, gravel or something down there in the lowlands, that sand and gravel is a lot more resistive. So the current dissipates. But we got that gooey clay up on the hillside. We're back years ago. All the pipelines are backfilled with native. That wet clay packed around this stuff just keeps that electrolysis happening in a concentrated manner. That's why we typically have 4-inch AC and 6-inch failures of asbestos pipe up on the hillside too, because it's constantly wet and the surface gets a little bit softer, where most of our pipe lay down in the sand and in the lowlands, we call it, in this lower pressure zone. Typically the pipelines last longer. A lot of it's just based on the material it's buried in.
Excellent. Thanks.
And then it's always that decision, right? Do you go through and specifically address the saddles? So you've still got to get down to that pipe. Then you've got to decide, what am I going to replace? If I'm down there, do I replace just the saddle, or do we now renew the service and everything else related to that? So is that in the middle of a road or is it in the shoulder? So there's all these factors, and it's not a simple decision of saying, should we just go and, vac down and get all these, or should we replace the whole line? There's a lot of factors that play into that. And we're just trying to collect the information so that when it comes time to deciding, should we replace that? It's not always because, well, we've had a couple of leaks or 3-4 leaks even, because sometimes you can spend a little bit of money and get a lot longer life on your pipe. And so, that information is important, but it's just good to know, or it's interesting to know that there's pieces of everything that we put in the ground that's vulnerable. It's not just the pipe or the service line. There's all these other things too. So just thought that would be interesting for you to see. And normally we don't go through and address audience comments, but I feel like it might be important for me to address a couple of items that were brought up. So LUDs, I think, would be great discussion, but as commissioners know, LUD is brought to us. We don't go through and do that. So their engineering counter is upstairs, and they'd be happy to talk and discuss projects. We've entertained ideas for LUDs in recent years. The last one we did, I think, was probably 7-8 years ago or something like that, down a Man Road in Fur Island. And so that one went well, but we're always open to suggestions, and engineering counter is open to discussing if there's future projects. So that would be great. A couple of the projects that were brought up. So the building came in under budget. So cost overruns, I don't know. The building is great. It was done with a heck of a lot of work from a lot of people. It took 6 years to get to where we are, as we all know. Moved in this year, and everything's worked out great. And it was planned well. It was budgeted well, and it was managed well by our staff. The transmission line, I can say the same for. Going back, phase 1, the Culshan alignment of phase 1. I was part of that project. I was a consultant at the time. So back in 2007, we did 1.6 miles down on the Culshan Trail, fixed that. But in 2007, there's an economic downturn, and the board at the time decided to defer the rest of the project. I can say that since then, costs have gone up, but we also had a much better design for the second phase. So it took a while to get the board to agree to fund the second part of the project. but we did. Took a while to get that agreement on the funding. Yes, it did. But we finished the project and it came in very well. We have a much better design and I think it's going to last a lot longer than the original design would have. And so a lot of good things to say about that. There were, again, it was a very complicated project. We went under the Nookachamps Creek instead of following the old alignment, which I think is much better in the long run. So that project worked out very well. Rates. Yes, on our website, we're very transparent. As you can see from, if you want to attend the meetings remotely, anybody can sit in and listen. We provide all the information. We had a 6-year rate plan that was discussed here in the meetings. We discussed it every year. We had a plan. That 6-year rate plan funded not just the building, not just the transmission line. It helped to fund over $100 million in capital work. And it was all communicated clearly to everybody. Whether people decide to come or not is different. We can't force it down your throat. The information is there. We did a rate study. We did a cost of service analysis. We did everything. So proud of the work that everybody did on the rates because it funded a lot of the capital work that we needed to do. All the work that was deferred. There was a lot of work that was deferred, and that's why we had to do a 5-year rate plan. We did it. We stuck to it. We did the projects. So we're talking about another rate plan for this year. We don't know what it'll be, but it's going to be based on our capital program as the last one was, which is always the right way to do it. So.
Great. All right, we will now, new business. So we've got a letter of commitment, or is that it for the old business?
Yeah, in case unless you have any questions.
No, pending questions, no. Nope. New business.
All right.
Let's use EPA's money.
New business, this was added kind of last minute, but we are working with a grant writer and we have contracted with them. They let us know about an opportunity with the EPA drinking water grant for mid-size and larger utilities. Deadline's October 6th. And so it's drinking water grant for resilience against natural hazards, extreme weather events, and cybersecurity threats. We've got a lot of projects that might fit into those. Because it's such a tight deadline, we thought the generator is one of those that would work perfectly. We've got the design done. We were just about to go out and try and procure it. I started communicating with this company. They said, yes, there's this grant available. So we could get up to 2.375 million in grant money, but it requires a 10% match. And the deadline for application is October 6th, which is before our next meeting. So we put this on the agenda because the 10% match is above my spending authority. So I'm looking for authority from the board to write this letter of commitment as part of our application to the EPA that we will fund the 10% match. We were going to fund the whole project, right? It's in our capital plan. So funding the 10% match isn't really an issue. So I just want to get authority and approval from the board to do that, and then we'll submit the letter as part of the application. So I'd be happy to answer any questions about the grant, or you guys know about the project already. Yeah.
So October 6th is the deadline to submit, and then do we have a timeline for when they would announce the?
Yeah, it's a long timeline. It's March is when we'll find out. So that buys us.
No.
We'll get a decision.
Any federal money these days is, yeah.
The thing is, our project will, based on what the grant writer told us, and just as much, we've got it shovel ready, so we should score well.
Yeah.
I've got high hopes that we should be able to get this. And so, we have to wait a little while, but we've got plenty of other things to do. And so that kind of fits with when we could go out to procurement anyway. And yeah, it should be fine. It shouldn't delay us, really long on the project. If we can get some money for it, a little bit of delay is not bad. So.
Yeah.
I would make a motion to authorize the general manager to submit the grant to the EPA for the EPA drinking water.
And the letter of commitment.
A letter
Letter of
of commitment, yeah.
Okay.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
I
Opposed? Motion carries. Excellent. More like that. And again, this is the benefit of having clean audits and being organized to jump on stuff like this. So very well done to George and the team for that. Let's see, we've got some information on the reservoir and a budget status in there, as well as the top awards. Commissioner comments?
We had a brief back and forth with Mark from SCOG in regards to different options for how the PUD can be more aware of project fund that are being funded through SCOG finances and just trying to collaborate with them. And so we're still going back and forth trying to figure out what the best foot forward is, so that we can maybe be more a part of that process rather than have to be as reactionary to some of these projects, so that we can be more involved, but not necessarily have a formal process. So hopefully George and staff can come up with a good option so that we can be more involved with the SCOG process, because it seems sometimes that there's a lot going on and then we find out last minute.
They have
About in the paper.
started the hiring process for?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, interviews will be, I believe, at our October 15th meeting, or the initial interviews. They were going to try to do them on this Friday, but I put in my 2 cents that I would be out. So it sounds like a lot of other people are still out on this Friday as well. So, but until then, Kevin's still sitting in his position. And then he also has unofficially offered to maintain that status as we do the Watershed Council
Oh, yeah.
discussions.
Okay.
So,
Great. Joe, anything else?
Nothing for me.
All right, then we will adjourn to an executive session to review the performance of a public employee per RCW 423110G, returning,
What time, Kathy?
what do you think, 10 minutes? All right, at
5:10?
5:10, and no action is expected to be taken.